The Quest for El Dorado, The Golden Temples. This is a standalone sequel to The Quest for El Dorado. It can be played by itself, it can be played in combination with the original game. It is based on the same general mechanics, the same general principles, but with some twists. I'll give you a general overview in case you don't know the original game, but I'll also point out what is the difference between the Golden Temples and the basic game, or the first game. Now, the game is played on a modular play area that is created using these tiles here, which are double-sided, can be rotated, a lot of variety there. We have a starting tile with number spaces where we place the tokens, little wooden meeples, so to speak, that represent our explorers. There's a treasure chamber which represents our final destination, and then we also have 3 tiles that represent the golden temples. Each gets stones, so 1 color on it, blue, red, and green. The task for the game, for the players, is to move around the board, go and visit all the temples, collect 1 gem of each kind, and make it back here. The first player to come back here with 3 gems wins the game. Much like in the original game, players will move on the board by spending resources that are generated by cards that they play. This is a race game because it's about who gets to certain places first, but movement is fueled by card play, and the cards are handled through a deck building mechanism. That is, you start with a small deck of cards, you will use some cards to activate actions and some of the cards to buy more cards. To move into a space, you need to spend a card, so play it in front of you and simply use the corresponding icon. To move into the space, I need a torch, which I have, hooray! To move into the space, I need a coin, which I have, hooray, and so on and so forth. Important, like in the original game, you can overpay for a spot and then still use the rest. Suppose that I'm here and I have a card that produces 2 torches, then I can do 1, 2, but you cannot put together multiple smaller values to pay for a larger one. If I'm here, I cannot use these 2 cards, 1 and 1, to pay for a 2, I need a 2 or a 3, and then I just overpay. Other spaces require different things. This one, for example, to enter requires that you discard a card out of the game, which can be very good if you discard some of the earlier not very valuable cards. Other things, this barrier, it's a bit of a catch-up mechanism. The first player that passes it will have to pay the cost, but then the barrier is removed, so then actually the track is shorter for the next players, for all players but the first. A new concept is Sentinels or Guardians. They protect the golden temples. You place these tokens on those spaces, you place them face down, you don't know what they represent, and when a player moves adjacent to a sentinel and ends their turn adjacent to a sentinel, you will reveal the token, look at the symbol, and pay the penalty, which is not that bad, but it is usually something that will help your opponent. So, of course, ideally, you will want, if you can, to dash next to the Sentinels, pretty much like you would do if you were Indiana Jones in the opening scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark. You're running and there are traps all around. I like that. Thematically, it works and it's kind of fun. But then again, we discovered that the penalties are not all that bad, and so from time to time you will just sit there and just take the penalty. So, several concepts we saw. We have the Guardians or Sentinels that are different from the original game. We have the fact that you're visiting 3 locations instead of 1. We also have another thing, which is gold coins. Different game functions will give you gold coins. You can have up to 3. You can have up to 3 in your personal supply. If you have 3 and you would get more, well, you don't. Also, if you spend a turn not moving and not acquiring new cards, you also get a coin. So there is that. You don't really waste a turn entirely, because if there's nothing else you can do, at least you get a coin. And you can use coins later to pay for coin costs and to acquire new cards. To acquire new cards, you produce coins playing cards from your hand. The deck building style, simply this here on top is the amount of gold or coins that is generated, and then you will buy new cards from an area where you will have all of your cards available there in a tableau, but only some cards will be available for purchase at the beginning of the game. Cards come, as you can see, in small decks of 3 each, and then basically when players want to buy something, if one of the original stacks is empty, then they get to take one that is out of the game. Let's say maybe we want to get Jeremiah Johnson here, and we put Jeremiah here, and now it's available. Then later people deplete their Archaeologist, and then the players can choose which of the other ones they want to make available. So say the Jeep is not available, so only a number will be available. Deck building style: when you acquire a new card, it goes into your discard pile. It will be shuffled into your deck when your draw deck is empty, and that's how your deck grows and you get new and better stuff. The idea again is very simple. Use your cards to pay for movement costs and or to acquire new cards. Go around the board, avoid the bottlenecks because you cannot move into the same areas of the players, and there are bottlenecks here and there, so try not to get too stuck. The first player to make it back here with 3 gems wins the game. The Quest for El Dorado, the Golden Temples. This is a really good game. The only reason why you may not hear me rave too much about it is because it is very similar to the Quest for El Dorado, the original game, and I already raved about this one in the review for this game. So now we have a game which is very, very similar, which is not a bad thing. When a game is very similar, looks a lot like something really good, it is also very good. However, from the financial point of view, maybe you have the original game and you're considering if it's really necessary for you to add this one to your collection. I don't know. I love both, so why not have those extra tiles, that extra flexibility, those new actions, but it is truly and basically the same game. It's not that the Sentinels or the coins truly make things all that different. I like the fact that with the coins you have more flexibility than even before, because that is wealth that you can store more easily, even if you discard the cards, so you can keep those coins from turn to turn. They can help you with movement. They can do a lot of cool things. But ultimately, you are playing the Quest for El Dorado. That is just it. And it's not one of those games where, well, the original was a little bit flawed, had that major problem. Now the standalone expansion or the second game fixes that entirely. Again, it's not to diminish the Golden Temples. It's just that the original Dorado didn't need fixing, and so the Golden Temples doesn't fix it. But that's good. Again, we have a game which is very, very similar. Whatever your feelings about the original one, I don't think this game is gonna give you any different reaction, because again, it is very, very similar, which to me is great. I like playing the variant. I like to play on different maps. I like the possibility of combining them, although I haven't done it yet, but you could do so. So the Quest for El Dorado, the Golden Temples, a slightly updated, slightly different variant of the original one. Not one that fixes any problem, not one that makes it better, but that's fine because the original game is excellent, and so is the Golden Temples. It's funny, I'm telling you, it's excellent, but you know, is excellent this more or less the same way as another game is excellent, which doesn't make it any less excellent. I don't know, philosophically this is getting too complicated. I like the Quest of El Dorado because the Golden Temples, because I like the original one, and this one is very similar.